Salam sejahtera, anda sedang menonton Agenda Awani. Saya Cynthia Eng dan malam ini kita akan membincangkan topik pendidikan di sekolah antarabangsa. Lebih ramai ibu bapa kini menghantar anak mereka ke sekolah antarabangsa, terutamanya apabila kerajaan memansuhkan kota 40% kemasukan pelajar tempatan ke sekolah-sekolah antarabangsa bermula tahun 2011. Dan apakah kelebihannya sekolah antarabangsa dan bagaimana ia dapat membantu negara mencapai aspirasi menjadi hub pendidikan bertaraf global ini kami akan bincangkan, dan saya mempunyai seorang tetamu khas hari ini. Beliau merupakan pengetua Sekolah Antarabangsa Kuala Lumpur dan izinkan saya meneruskan rancangan ini dalam bahasa Inggeris. I'd like to welcome Dr. Norma Hudson, Head of International School Kuala Lumpur. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Okay, let's talk about the school itself. It's celebrating its 50th anniversary this year. And walk us through about the founding of the school, maybe, and maybe some of its ethos of ISKL.
Okay, well, that's great. This is an exciting time for us because our 50th is going to take place in the middle of April. And during that time, we have former heads of schools that are going to be returning. Some were heads probably about 35 years ago. And we have a number of alumni that are returning, some that live here that will be joining us. And so it will really be an exciting time for us as we celebrate 50 years. We've been on 3 different campuses during that time, and we're preparing to be on a new campus as well. So it's an opportunity for us to celebrate the quality of education that we've offered to kids. We have students all around the world. Living in, I think, approximately 80 different countries is what the latest count was from our alumni department. So we intend for the weekend to be very special, inclusive of concerts, inclusive of a celebration of Malaysian Stalls Night, which is such an important part of living in KL, as well as a big gala event in which many people will attend. We're hoping between 500 and 600 people.
I believe one of the biggest attraction of an international school is that children are able to be exposed to many different cultures and experiences. And is that one of the reasons why ISKL has remained to be one of the top international schools in Kuala Lumpur? In fact, probably in Malaysia as well. So what is the drawing factor towards ISKL?
I think there are a number of drawing factors. The first, I believe, is most important, is that we're a very mission-driven school. We talk about exceptional education, and you'll frequently hear that, and how we're delivering exceptional education. But the most important part is that we want our students to have the knowledge, skills, and attitudes in order to be highly successful, spirited global citizens. And I think when we talk about the international culture and what life is like, what international schools have to offer, I think that part of really growing up with kids from around the world opens students' eyes. We have 61 different nationalities at ISKL with our 1,650 students. And so kids are growing up understanding someone from a different country and accepting students as they are, and not necessarily because they might have a different color hair or a different skin tone, but treat everybody as one. I frequently say at ISKL that we have 61 nationalities, 3 divisions, because we have 3 divisional schools, our elementary school, our middle school, and our high school. And then we have 2 campuses, the Ampang campus and Awani. But what draws us together is we're one community, we're ISKL. And I think what you asked, what makes us so special, I think it really is the heart of the school. You walk onto the campus and you can tell what ISKL is about. There's a special ethos about ISKL. There's a special feeling about ISKL. When people come, when our students come, we make a point of ensuring that they have a peer friend immediately, so that they only feel like they're new one time. Our PTA is very active, and so they're welcoming new
I understand
parents.
in your classrooms, because I had a friend who just told me that his brother is an ISKL, and you teach entirely using Google Documents. Is that true?
Oh, not entirely teaching. We use Google Docs as a tool. So it's one that enhances learning. So our students are very adept, whether it's iPads, because we use iPads in the elementary, or whether it's a one-to-one laptop program, or whether it's the high school program. They use Google Docs to enhance learning.
So there's a lot of digital integration into the classroom.
Absolutely, absolutely. They use it, again, as an extension of learning. I think the most important part that you see in our students is that they use it to facilitate. They're very inquiry-based, and one of the things that's really exciting is that they take ownership in their own learning.
I understand. I mean, based on statistics, that well, private and international schools used to cater to the elites, the expatriate community, but there is an increasing, even middle class of families are sending their kids to private school. Because I know you have been based in Saudi Arabia and back in the United States. I was wondering if this trend is evident throughout the world globally, or how do you see this trend of people sending their kids to a more international base
Of the
school?
local home country? It depends upon the country, because in Saudi Arabia, for a long period of time, we could not accept Saudi students in our schools. You can now under certain guidelines. And I understand in Malaysia that it is becoming easier for Malaysian students
Because
to...
we have abolished the 40% quota, right?
Yes, right. So right now, our Malaysian population is our second largest population at ISKL. We have 25% United States citizens. Malaysians are next with 12%. And we would really like to see our Malaysian population grow in the future.
Do you see that there is a growth trend for more local students?
That's right.
coming?
That's what we hope to. We hope to. With our new campus that we're opening, we're going to have space for 2,500 students, and we'd like to see more local Malaysian
And where is
students.
this campus located?
It's located in Ampang, off of Jalan Ampang Hillier.
Okay. What about the curriculum that you use? I know ISKL and a lot of international private schools, they focus a lot about the non-academic co-curricular activities. But in terms of curriculum, what is offered in ISKL?
Well, we have an American foundation, but we take the best of all. And so what we do is we look at standards and benchmarks from around the world, and so we select ones that we believe are really strong and that will help our students be successful wherever they go in the world. Because our graduates attend colleges, universities around the world. They'll go to the UK, they'll go to Europe, they'll go to Australia, New Zealand, United States, and Canada, and Korea. And so we want to ensure that they have the knowledge and skills to prepare them to be successful in that. So as well, we have an IB curriculum. We use the IB diploma program, and we also offer the advanced placement program for our high school students too. So the students are going to get, in many of the courses, an American foundation, but also the best of the world.
All right, that's great. I'll have to go to a first commercial break, but when we come back, I'd like to talk about preparing students for the workforce, because that is the idea of an education, to prepare them with skills, competencies that will be useful when they go into the job sector. But a lot of jobs that we have today might not even exist in 20 years from now.
Right.
So how do you prepare them? Let's talk about that shortly after the break. Stay with us.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome back to Agenda Awani. I'm joined by Dr. Norma Hudson, Head of International School, Kuala Lumpur. I would like to talk about job requirements in the 21st century. I got this interesting data by the U.S. Department for Labor, who estimated that 65% of today's primary school children will end up at jobs that they will not be invented yet until, say, 20 years from now. So from an educator's perspective, how do you prepare them? What kind of tools or elements that you think are crucial for the innovation?
Okay, that's a really good question, because whenever I was growing up, content, it was all about content. It was how much you knew and how much you could recite later. And to a degree, it is still about content, but in actually preparing our kids for the 21st century and for jobs that we don't even know exist, we really need to prepare them with dispositions of learning at this point. We need to help them to be inquisitive, lifelong learners, and how to access information. They need to know how to get answers, to be critical thinkers and problem solvers, and to be really creative. We have at ISKL, we have what we call school-wide learning results that are really about learning and about taking ownership, such as communicating effectively. You look at your job and my job and what we're doing right now, and how important communication is. Whether it's now or whether it's the job in the 20 years down the road, communication is going to be important. You look about thinking and how creative we are. and students need to know how to think creatively. Again, that's a disposition that's going to carry forward. About collaborating, we think of what our jobs are like now. You think of Google. You think of all the Apple companies, and how when you talk about the offices of the future, it's not individual offices anymore.
Absolutely.
It's rooms that people do not have walls in between, and it's all about collaboration. That's one of our school-wide learning results. It's about collaborating constructively and about learning enthusiastically. And so if we can embed those dispositions, those learning results as we call them, in our students, I think those are the ones that are really going to make a difference in their future and in their future jobs. They're a foundation.
Speaking of collaborative, I understand the job as a head of school can be very demanding, even more so now. I think it has evolved so much, and you're no longer just the administrator. You probably have to be the face of the school. You have to manage the building itself. Maybe you have to be the PR director, the cheerleader, the coach, everything in one, I suppose. So how do you do that, especially with the increasing competitiveness from the market and education? So how do you, as a leader?
I think the number one thing is you really have to love your job, because if you didn't, it would really be a difficult job. And it's all those things that you talked about. It is being the cheerleader of the school. It's being the champion of the school.
You have to do everything.
Yeah, it is. But you know what's really great is, I think if you're in the right situation, which ISKL is, it's a very collaborative environment. So while I'm the head of the school, it is such a team effort. So it's not all about what the head of the school does, but it's about the role that everybody plays in it. Our faculty are important, our staff are important, our students are important, our parents are important. So the whole idea is about working together. So I think what makes it easy to manage is because it's such a team that works and promotes.
And how do you
ISKL.
share that leadership across?
How do you share? We have a lot of team meetings, and we have a lot of discussions about what we do for student learning, what we do with our parents. We have a very active PTA that we're a part of. We have meetings about students. We have a lot of consultants that come in. So that is a shared effort. Our board is very active as well in the strategic operation of the school.
How important is community in the success of
extremely
ISKL?
important. Because your community, you know, you talked about the head of the school being the cheerleader, but your community is out there talking to other parents, and they're out there talking to their employers. ISKL, when we go recruiting for teachers, it's really exciting because we can go into a room and it can be full of teachers wanting to come to ISKL. And we want that same experience for the companies that we support as well. For the employer to say, you know, I've got the very best employee from whatever country wanting to come here because they've heard about the quality of education that students receive at ISKL.
Perhaps also quality of training provided to the teachers, or what sort of programs to enhance their teaching experience?
You're talking about one of my favorite areas, professional development.
Yes, professional
ISKL does an amazing job of professional development. We support our teachers, you know, to go out and receive additional training. And actually at ISKL, you don't have to go out to receive it. We just had a wonderful conference just this weekend with Catherine Berger-Kay, who was here about service learning. We talked earlier about what is it about the curriculum. It's also about the academic rigor that's offered and the value added. And that's how I like to phrase it. The value added would be the athletics, the activities, the performing and visual arts. One of the strong points of ISKL is about service learning. Catherine Berger-Kay was here working with our teachers on the weekend. They gave up their time on the weekend to come and spend Saturday and Sunday learning more about service learning. As well, ISKL has hosted two major conferences this year, one on iPads called an iPad Summit, which really focused on how iPads can enhance learning. And we had teachers from Kazakhstan, from the Middle East, from Europe here for the conference, and we just hosted the second Google Apps for Education Summit as well, again with about 250 educators from all over the world coming. So professional development is really an important part. And when we get to our new school, the Professional Development Center is going to be integral in our new building.
It's very interesting to look at an international school and private school because this is where I believe our education system in the transformation program, we aspire to have similar values that is currently incorporated in international and private schools. What do you think, maybe from your teachers, what are some of their challenges? Because if I were to speak to a teacher in public school, they will say that they are probably bogged down by KPIs. They have a lot of paperwork and they have big classes, and and to incorporate fun, creativity, technology in the classroom is just so much. So, from your perspective, running an international school,
I think there's so much that we want to do. There's so many things that we can do to educate children. I think the biggest challenge is to prioritize. Our teachers are current with the latest pedagogical methods, and they know best practices. And when you walk into a classroom, it's really exciting because you see students engaged in learning and taking ownership in learning. You see students all around the room. Whenever I was growing up, it was, the traditional 4 desks in a row, and the rows had to be nice and neat. That's not the way it is any longer.
Okay.
And so I think the biggest challenge is just to prioritize and ensure that the students are engaged in the learning that we feel is most important.
Okay, I'll have to take this discussion to the next commercial break, but I want to pick up on your point about changing classroom. The classroom has changed. The future of the classroom might be entirely different from what it is now. So I'd like to get your thoughts about what do you think is the ideal future of the classroom. Shortly after the break, stay with us. Welcome back to Agenda Awani. I'm joined by Dr. Norma Hudson, Head of International School, Kuala Lumpur. Right, Dr. Norma, I would like to get your view about the future classroom. And firstly, do you think that there is our traditional education system right now? Do you think it's misaligned, or do you think there are areas that we can work on before going to what the future may look like? Maybe some of the things that we can do right now to tackle.
Well, I would say we can always improve. I think that we need to always look at ways that we can get better, and that's one of the things that we're constantly reflecting on at ISKL. So it may not be necessarily misaligned, but I think what we have to look about is, first off, are we meeting our mission? And our mission, whenever we talk about exceptional education, is defining what that really means.
Of course.
So is our classroom supporting that? And the classrooms of the future, to me, are very different, as I said, than what we previously had. And it's not just the physical space. We are moving into a new school, as you know, and we're going to talk about that. And in the new school, we've had a lot of conversations about walls and about windows and about whiteboards and paint even, and would a white wall that you write on replace all the chalkboards of the past? And should smart boards be fixable or movable? And so whenever you consider what the classroom of the future looks like, one of the things that we've really talked about is that we really don't envision silos. We call them silos like they used to be, or like some schools currently are, but rather more spaces that can promote collaboration and promote movement with students.
I believe that's really important because right now we get our contents, our resources from the internet. In fact, there's been talks that the school will be entirely based on cloud learning.
Right.
I don't know, maybe 10 years from now. I'm not sure if that's going to happen, but it's a really cool idea, the fact that you can access education. I can be in KL and my lecturer could be somewhere in the United States. So that is something very interesting. And do you think that we have the right tools to move forward to it?
I think we're at the very beginning stages of having the right tools. I think, again, it's about those dispositions about our students. And I also think it's about an openness on educators to be willing to learn and willing to grow, and how to access those tools. Because you're absolutely right, education can take place in any place, and it's so great right now whenever students from one class can have students. In the olden days, whenever I was growing up, it was pen pals. It's no longer pen pals. It's virtual pals, but you can have that, you know, in those exchanges from one country to another
and
country.
I understand ISKL recently had its own TED Talks.
Oh, that was an amazing event. Totally student organized. They had some faculty chaperones, but the idea was envisioned by ISKL students. And so they got together and they said, how can we do this? And what can we do to facilitate being the first school in Malaysia to host TEDx? There are very strict guidelines to host a TEDx. You have to meet certain criteria. You have to have the stage exactly right. You have to have different types of speakers and a theme. Our students did all of that. We're so proud of them. They selected a theme called the Creative Spark. They found different types of speakers that have used creativity in their lives. We actually had 2 amazing ISKL students speak that were just phenomenal. We had an ISKL teacher, we had local Malaysians, an interior designer, a poet, an actress. We also had a doctor come from New York City and an educator come from Minneapolis. And the whole day was just a wonderful opportunity to see these various, very engaging, spirited people come together and talk about how creativity played a difference in their lives. And so this was the first time we did this, and we hope that we can do it again and again and again.
I understand that the parents play a very important role in ISKL because it's a non-profit.
Yes, it's not for profit.
So how do you get the engagement that you need from parents themselves who may be too preoccupied with work, but they still have time for that?
I think one of the things that our parents do very well, they are involved. We have a board, and our board is the strategic operating arm of the school, and there are 14 parents on our board, and that's one of the ways parents are involved. They're elected for terms for 3 years.
Right.
As well, we have a very active PTA organization. And they do all kinds of activities, sponsor all kinds of activities for our students and our community throughout the year. Just a few weeks ago, we had an amazing international festival where all 61 of our nationalities were celebrated with a flag parade and with culture shows. We had over 2,000 people on the campus that day in their native costumes, and we could sample foods from countries around the world, and we learned more about each other.
Speaking, okay, sorry, just wanted to, because we have about 1 minute. No, speaking of campus, this new campus that you said is going to be ready in 2007, I believe?
2017.
And tell us a bit more about this new state-of-the-art campus that I've been hearing about. So.
How much time do I have?
About 1 minute. Yeah.
Well, first, one of the great things is that we are an entry point project of the economic transformation.
So it's part of the government's
part of the government's economic transformation program. So it's a new state-of-the-art campus for 2,500 students. We're talking about those designs of the classrooms so they're not silos, so that we have an opportunity for collaborative spaces. It's along Jelana Ampang Hillier. We have an amazing performing arts center along with our classrooms that will have a studio theater and a concert hall, a recital hall, and a theater for performances. We also have 3 different soccer pitches along that. It's just going to be a beautiful facility that we hope that once school is out and that we have time on the weekends that we can open to the community as well.
Okay, I wanted to ask you, how do you think international schools can help elevate the education sector in Malaysia?
I have an answer.
But we ran out of time, but it'd be great if we can have you here again and talk about that further. And thank you so much, Dr. Norma Hassan. Thank you for coming on the show. And thank you for watching as well. Setakat itu saja agenda Awani untuk malam ini, dan jika anda ada sebarang cadangan pendapat atas soalan, sila hantarkan ke Facebook Astro Awani atau boleh tweet kami di Twitter 501 Awani. Sekian saja agenda Awani. Saya Cynthia Ng. Selamat malam. Thank you so much.
I had an answer, and I didn't even